Due to intense subject matter, this program may not be suitable for young children.
I'm standing in for Morgan King and Anne-Marie Dugan. Today we're going to take a closer look at one of the most heinous mass murders ever to take place in the state of Tennessee. I'm talking about the Lillelid Murders. On April 6, 1997, a young married couple from Powell, Tennessee, and their children, a 6-year-old girl and a 2-year-old little boy, were kidnapped at a rest stop on Interstate 81 in Greene County and taken to a gravel road where all 4 were brutally gunned down. I've covered this story for WKPT News since it broke, but each day my time was limited to 2 or 3 minutes per newscast, and I wasn't able to present the whole story. That's why we're here today. Most of the details will involve the killers, and I'm going to warn parents right now, we're dealing with intense subject matter that may not be suitable for children.
Damn, killer. You better be careful.
The focus is on the 6 Kentuckians, not to give them undue attention, but to examine what we know about their lives, to find out how they became killers, and maybe somewhere in the debris, there's a lesson for all of us. With that in mind, let's proceed. We began with a news conference held by Greene County Sheriff Terry Jones the morning after the Lillelid's bodies were found.
The officers arrived at the scene. They found a male and female laying in a ditch. They had what appeared to be multiple gunshot wounds to the chest area. Also, 2 small children were found. Each adult was holding one with also gunshot wounds to their head.
Were the Lillelid murders the result of a senseless frenzy or a calculated ritual? Legal experts involved in the case say we may never know. The family was found just minutes after they were gunned down on a little gravel road in Baileyton, Tennessee. Vidar and Delphina Lillelid were laying side by side in a shallow ditch with their toes pointed toward the road. Their children, 6-year-old Tabitha and 2-year-old Peter, were lying across their parents' chests, forming crosses. This struck investigators as strange, but they wouldn't find out until later just how strange this case could get.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
According to forensic pathologist Dr. Cleveland Blake, some of the bullet wounds found on Vidar and Delphina Lillelid formed patterns. Besides several random shots, Vidar had also been shot 3 times in the chest, each wound forming the point of a triangle. The same for Delphina, but her triangle was in her abdomen. Later testimony revealed that triangles were used in blood rituals held by the people who eventually pleaded guilty to killing the Lillelids. In fact, the triangles were used the night before the murders in a ritual inside this Kentucky hotel room to ask for Satan's protection. From what we don't know, but prosecutors would insinuate the group was preparing to commit murder in order to please their demons. And all the players were there. 20-year-old Joseph Risner, 19-year-old Dean Mullins, 18-year-old Natasha Cornett, 18-year-old Crystal Sturgil, 17-year-old Karen Howell, and 14-year-old Jason Bryant. That's how it all began. After the ritual in the wee hours of Sunday morning, the group went on a shoplifting spree at Walmart, then went to Natasha's house where she lived with her mother to get some sleep. Fear of being arrested for vandalizing the hotel room the night before forced the 6 to make plans to leave town. So when they woke up Sunday afternoon, they crowded into Risner's car and headed south. In just a few hours, they would meet the Lillelids at a rest stop. That chance meeting would have a tragic end. When the 6 were arrested 2 days later at the Mexican border in Arizona, they were in the Lillelids van. And a glimpse of the items inside that van was our first illustration of 2 very different worlds that had fatally collided. A photo album with lewd pictures that the killers carried with them was laying open on top of a child's toy, a doll that had once belonged to a 6-year-old little girl named Tabitha.
Okay, do you have any questions, Miss Cornett?
We got our first real glimpse at some of the killers when an Arizona judge reviewed their case via teleconference. These would become familiar faces that would haunt many people for the rest of their lives. These were the last faces the Lillelids saw before they died.
Because I think that they ought to take them people, hang them up somewhere, slash them with a whip, or beat them, take turns until they die a slow and painful death. I don't think they ought to get killed quickly, because that's just letting them off too easy.
The 4 adult defendants waived extradition and were immediately returned to Tennessee. An angry mob gathered at the Greene County Jail to greet them.
They should have been made walk from Arizona barefooted, I think. Blisters on their feet and then busted them. It's just the awfulest thing that ever happened.
I came down here to see just who would be crazy enough to kill little kids, man.
And we want to see, we want to see the little smirks on their face, and we want to see justice done.
No such crowd would be on hand to greet the younger defendants. Attorneys appointed to represent Jason Bryant and Karen Howell in Arizona tried to fight extradition, so the youngsters were not sent back to Tennessee with the adults. But that fight was unsuccessful. On a Friday afternoon, an Arizona judge approved extradition, and Greene County deputies took the juveniles on Saturday before Arizona attorneys could file an appeal to that ruling on Monday morning. Bryant and Howell were greeted by a host of television cameras and reporters in Greenville, but no mob. Before Howell and Bryant arrived in Greene County, the older defendants were arraigned for first-degree murder. The day of that arraignment generated a media circus. Reporters from all over came to cover the hearing, even from as far away as Vidar's home country of Sweden. On the day of the arraignment, the defendants were escorted one by one to a small courtroom from an upstairs jail by armed guards as television photographers jostled for position in a small lobby. One of those defendants would quickly emerge as a so-called leader. That was Natasha Cornett. A Kentucky attorney named Eric Kahn was hired to represent Cornett from the first. The brash young counselor bucked convention when he openly talked to reporters about his client. It soon became evident he was going for the shock factor.
Yes, they all share blood on as a regular basis as a matter of bonding. They also have regular frenzies with blood and kind of a sexual erotic frenzy that they have.
Kahn's openness about bizarre rituals and self-mutilation was scorned by the attorneys assigned to represent the other defendants. They believed Kahn was turning the case into a 3-ring circus, and he would later be removed as Natasha's attorneys because of these tactics. But until he was removed, Kahn stuck to his strategy, and he encouraged Natasha to expand on her fascination with the dark arts whenever possible. Reporters sent lists of questions to Natasha while she was in jail. In her answers, Natasha stated she believed she was a daughter of Satan. That claim would stick to her in future reports on the Lillelid murders, both local and national. Despite media reports to the contrary, Natasha denied she was the leader of the group. But as each defendant took the witness stand at the sentencing hearings, it became clear that Natasha was at least the catalyst that brought them all together. And it was also clear that she was the leader in the bizarre rituals the group participated in. Investigators found piles of occult paraphernalia in Natasha's bedroom after the murders, and for them, it explained the mystery of the Lillelid bodies being laid out in the forms of crosses. A Ouija board, several spell books, and vampire game books were just a few of the items investigators found. Between the arraignment and the final sentencing hearing, 3 of the 6 defendants dramatically changed their appearance. Dean Mullins trimmed his hair and opted for a closer shave. It gave him a clean-cut look, returning his appearance to that of a studious young man. Crystal Sturgil cut off her long hair. The effect? She looked harmless as a librarian. But the most startling change was the one effected by Joe Risner. The young man who many came to think of as a co-leader of sorts cut off his long hair. He was instantly transformed from a frightening apparition to a seemingly frightened young man.
If you look at the overall picture in this case, it can cause you to go into withdrawal, but if you focus on 1 or 2 areas at a time, I think we can all rest a lot better with what we're doing.
Judge James Beckner decided to try all 6 defendants together. It would have been the largest trial in Tennessee history, and preparations were massive. But Beckner pushed attorneys to the limit, setting strict deadlines for weekly updates. This schedule, however, would be nothing compared to the trial itself. Jury selection was set to begin February 23rd, and the trial would last 4 to 6 weeks. As that trial date approached, everyone was busy getting ready. Attorneys, defendants, victims, family and friends, witnesses, and the media all were set to spend more than a month in Greenville. But it was not to be. At the last possible moment on the last business day before jury selection, all 6 defendants decided to change their pleas from not guilty to guilty.
Are you all pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Yes.
Yes.
And I want each defendant to answer that individually. Ms. Sturgil?
Yes.
Mr. Mullins?
Yes.
Mr. Risner?
Yes.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Ms. Cornett?
Yes.
Ms. Howell?
Yes.
The adults did it to avoid the death penalty, for which all were eligible. The youngsters did it in hopes they would get leniency from the court during sentencing. These guilty pleas meant everyone would skip a trial and go straight to the sentencing phase, when the judge would hand down a punishment against the newly confessed killers. Attorneys scrambled to switch gears. They would do everything they could to garner sympathy for the client in an effort to soften the blow.
The sentencing hearing is where we found out about the killers, what their lives were like from the earliest age. The 4 defendants who, according to testimony, played the biggest role in the murders, each took the stand in their own defense to tell the judge their side of the story.
Please state your full name for the court, please.
Natasha Leanne Wallen Cornett.
It was almost painful to listen to the details of Natasha Cornett's childhood. She was isolated with a sickly mother who physically abused her and a string of would-be fathers who abandoned her.
I just remember, like, when she was fixing my hair before daycare, she would, like, get real upset, and she'd start pulling it out and dragging me by the hair of the head, and sometimes she'd hit me in the head with a brush and stuff like that, and throw brushes and stuff at me.
Why? What had you done?
I don't know. I mean, she said that I sassed her, but I don't remember doing it. She'd, like, hit me with her fist, or she'd grab whatever was near her and hit me with that.
You know what a spanking is. I guess you call it that in Kentucky. That's what we call it down here, spanking, whipping, whatever.
Yeah.
With a belt or a switch or a fly swatter or these little floppy bedroom shoes, something like that. But that's not what you're talking about.
No.
Right. You're talking about hitting with a fist.
Yeah.
And your mom would do this on, was it rare?
No.
Occur a whole lot?
Yeah.
What was your relationship like with your mother between the ages of 5 and 10?
Not good. I was scared of her. I mean...
Why were you scared of her?
Well, I knew she could hurt me, but I was more scared of her leaving, because that's, like, what she threatened to do more, was to leave me.
Just take off and leave?
Yeah.
When Natasha became a teenager, the lifetime of turmoil began bearing its fruit. Natasha started dressing in dark clothing. She dropped out of school, and she took over the task of abusing herself.
When did you start cutting yourself?
I think 6th grade.
6th grade?
Yeah.
Where did you cut yourself in?
My ankles.
Your ankles. How many cuts do you have on your arms, legs, and anything?
I don't know.
A lot?
Yeah.
We've all seen the pictures up and down your arm. Why do you do that?
To release, like, emotional pain.
Natasha's mother, Madonna Wallen, tearfully recalled the day she found out about her daughter's self-mutilation.
She was in the middle bedroom. She was sitting in the middle of the bed. She had a razor blade, and she cut her arm. And I said, Natasha, please don't do that. And she said, Mommy, that's the only way I can get rid of the pain. She said, just go away and leave me alone. I'll be okay. That's what she cut herself, is to get rid of the pain. And I don't even know what the pain was.
On the witness stand, Madonna admitted that despite the shock over seeing her daughter slice her own arms, the mother continued to let Natasha do as she pleased. The girl's friends would come over and stay for days at a time, including Dean Mullins, Crystal Sturgil, Karen Howell, and Joe Risner. They were allowed to drink alcohol and do drugs, and when the group retired to Natasha's room, Donna never asked any questions.
And when she would bring those people home, did you allow them to drink?
I didn't really know what they were doing back there in the bedroom. That was her room. And I guess they did drink sometimes, yeah.
I mean, wouldn't it be fair to say that they brought alcohol in, that they would pass you at some point before they got back there?
Yeah.
So it's something you tolerated?
Yeah, to keep her home.
Just days after the Lillelid murders, Madonna Wallen spoke privately with WKBT News at her home in Betsy Lane, Kentucky. She spoke of spirits that whispered in her daughter's ear and Natasha's strange declaration that she wanted to start Armageddon.
If they did, go and do a seance, and they did think they could start the Armageddon. I know a lot of people don't believe in demons and the powers of the dark, but they're very real. And that's all the only excuse that I can give for those children doing that is that they just conjured up something that took over them completely, and it was a demon force.
It was news of the murders that finally moved Madonna to action. She says she tore apart Natasha's bedroom and burned several items of her daughter's occult paraphernalia. We did find a pile of ashes in the backyard, supposedly Natasha's freshly burned Ouija board, and we had to get past Natasha's black dog named Evil to shoot video of that pile. Just as a visit to this house convinced investigators that the occult was a major factor in this case, our own visit also convinced us Natasha was deeply involved in black magic. And from the witness stand during her sentencing hearing, the young woman confirmed it. Hers was a different religion, one in which she embraced evil.
What's the difference between my God and your God?
Well, Christians' God is supposed to be like pure and good and does nothing wrong. And my God is not completely pure or good. He's like a yin-yang, I guess.
But the murders weren't enough to make Natasha change her ways. Prosecutors produced a letter written by Natasha while she was in jail. In it, she asked a friend to perform a blood ritual to ask Satan to have the murder charges against her dropped. Despite her dark leanings and the terrible murders, the stories about Natasha's childhood, verified by relatives, almost swayed the judge. When passing sentence, Beckner wavered between giving the girl simple life in prison and life without parole. But even as he spoke about his indecision in open court, Beckner seemed to talk himself right into a verdict.
I don't think I have any choice in the case, as far as you're concerned, Ms. Cornett, but to sentence you in each of counts 18, 19, and 20 to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole.
Karen Howell was just 17 years old when the Lillelids were killed. Like Natasha, she also suffered abuse as a child, but hers was sexual abuse at the hands of an uncle and his son. Before she began her testimony, Howell asked to have her family removed from the courtroom. They did leave, but the group gathered around television monitors being used by reporters in the courtroom lobby to listen as Howell described her life. Howell's mother was a devoutly religious woman, but at the age of 14, Karen Howell rebelled. She began dabbling in witchcraft, first white magic or Celtic magic, then dark.
Did you first begin with the Ouija board?
Yes.
And after the Ouija board, you got into automatic writing?
Yes.
Now, so His Honor can understand, automatic writing is when you call upon spirits to enter you.
No.
Spirits do enter you in automatic writing, don't they?
Yes, but you don't have to call upon them to get them to come into you.
Things got so bad that Karen's mother finally brought in preachers to perform an exorcism, but to no avail. The girl's obsession with the spirit world increased, causing her to lose touch with reality. On the witness stand, Karen told about one particular spirit named Jonathan Alexander Dimitri. She started seeing Jonathan just 7 months before the murders.
Usually when you want to see Jonathan, all you have to do is close your eyes.
Yes.
And most of the time you think of a question and he communicates with you by nodding or shaking his head.
Yes.
He's not the only hallucination that you've had, is he?
Not when I close my eyes, no.
Sometimes when you do, you see black shadows.
Yes.
Things in your mind lighten up.
Yes.
Everything turns red.
Yes.
And you see people walking around.
Spirits, yes.
Do you see the spirits of the Lillelid family?
No.
Karen's familiarity with the occult made her an ideal companion for Natasha. They would frequently drink one another's blood to bring them closer. Prosecutors tried to characterize the girls as being lovers, but both vehemently denied the accusation, claiming they were more like sisters. Whatever the relationship, Natasha was clearly the dominant personality. When this gruesome group met up with the Lillelids at the I-81 rest stop, Karen seemed to be floating along disconnected from the goings-on around her, and Natasha seemed to be guiding her. Listen to her describe her reactions as those events played out. First, when they began talking about taking the Lillelid's van.
Natasha and I were standing at Joe's car smoking, and Natasha said, "You want to steal that van?" And I said, "No, you do it." And she said, "No, you do it."
When Natasha wanted to go listen to Risner's discussion with Vidar at the picnic tables.
They all went up there, and Natasha turns to me and says that she's going to go with them, make sure that they wouldn't hurt them. She asked me if I want to go too, and I said, yeah.
When Natasha decided to ride in the van while Risner and Bryant kidnapped the Lillelid family.
Everyone started walking toward the van, and Natasha said that she was going to ride with them so they wouldn't hurt them. She said, was I going to go with her? And I said, I guess.
And finally, after the murders.
I think at that point, I hunched over in the seat and turned to face the window and just closed my eyes.
But perhaps Karen's biggest effort to remove herself from her circumstances came while the murders were actually being committed. She testified that Jason Bryant started shooting the family with one gun, and she was sitting in the Lillelid van with another gun on the floor when Jason returned to the van.
If I understand you correctly, you told His Honor that he did the shooting with the .25 first.
Yes.
And then he started shooting with the 9mm.
Yes.
But before he could start shooting with the 9mm, he had to come back to the van.
Yes.
And get it.
Yes.
Where you were.
Yes.
You had access to it.
I didn't see the gun until he came and grabbed it. I wasn't paying attention to a gun.
The judge made little hesitation when he handed down Karen's sentence of life in prison without parole. Joe Risner also took the stand in his own defense. It was Risner who Vidar Lillelid was witnessing to on that fateful day. It was Risner who pulled a gun on Vidar. It was Risner who forced Vidar to drive his family to that lonely road in Baileyton. It was Risner who ran over the bodies of the Lillelids as the group made its getaway. And it was Risner who was the only one to apologize to his victim's family.
I'd like to apologize because I know that I helped put them into that situation where they got hurt. And I know that they'll never be back. And I'm so sorry that we did this. I'm just sorry.
Risner's childhood is not littered with stories of abuse and witchcraft. He did come from a broken home, and he started using drugs and alcohol at an early age. But it was Risner's romantic entanglements with first Natasha, then Karen, that brought him into this strange group. But he says he didn't witness one of the girls' blood rituals until just a week before the murders.
They sat on the floor in front of each other, and they were cutting their arms, and they were laughing, they were giggling and talking to each other, and it didn't seem serious at all. They dripped the blood in the cups, and they were giggling and talking to each other the whole time. It was just a bonding experience for them or something is what it looked like to me.
Did it worry you?
Well, yeah.
Why?
Because I love Karen, and I didn't want her to hurt herself.
Like Natasha and Karen before him, Risner told Judge Beckner the youngest member of their group, then 14-year-old Jason Bryant, did all the shooting.
I walked back towards the van, and I opened the driver's door, and I started to get in. And that's when I heard the first shot.
Did you turn around and look what had happened?
Yes. I jerked my head around, and I saw Mr. Lillelid fall to the ground.
Who was standing in front of him with a gun?
Jason was standing in front of him, and he had the 9mm in his hand.
What did he do next?
I heard another shot, and I saw Mrs. Lillelid turn to her side, and she fell to the ground.
What did you do?
I jumped into the van, and I closed the door, and I started to cry. And my first thought when the door closed, I started to hear like a burst go off. And I thought, oh my God, they're dead.
As part of his plea for leniency, Risner's attorney told Judge Beckner that the young man's life would be a living hell in prison, even if he received the lighter sentence of life with parole. None of the defendants, he said, would be eligible to get out of prison until the year 2050, and Risner was not going to enjoy those years behind bars. The young man, it seemed, had already received anonymous letters from inmates at Brushy Mount State Prison promising the, quote, baby killer a warm welcome when he arrived. But the judge had no pity.
There's a lot of torture and abuse of these people on the way to their murder, when they were crying and begging and pleading and singing. But especially as in count number 18 as to Delphina Lillelid, I found that the proof is that she was still alive when you ran over her, and that you did that intentionally. Now, as to count number 20, I find that Tabitha Lillelid was still alive and watched her parents being shot and killed.
Risner was sentenced to life in prison without parole, and 2 days later, he was shipped off to Brushy Mount.
Hey, Jason, speak up loudly so everybody can hear you.
The only other defendant to take the witness stand was Jason Bryant. In fact, Bryant was the first to testify, and according to his version of the story, Joe Risner and Dean Mullins did all the killing, and then forced him to take the blame.
He said, what about you? Would you take the blame for it? And I said, I don't know how much time I can get, and this ain't like school. And I started telling him like that, and he told me that I could only be held until I'm 18, then they had to let me go.
Are you afraid of Joe at this point?
Yes.
Okay. Then what happened?
Well, I said I'd have to think about it, and when it did, Dean asked me, let me see your hand like that, and when I put my hand out, he pulled out a gun, the .25, and shot me.
Jason's attorney made this claim the focal point of his arguments.
That it was the adult's plan. Let the juvenile take the rap. And I submit to you, Your Honor, it worked. The adult's plan worked. The adults are out of the electric chair. Attorney General says that there was no direct proof of anybody shooting other than the juvenile.
Because there was so much focus on Jason being framed for the murders, we only got a glimpse of Jason's past life. He lived with his father and brother in Kentucky, and unlike his co-defendants, he had a prior juvenile record. This record was used to support claims by other attorneys that Bryant was not the patsy he claimed to be, but a dangerous monster.
He's mean, and it's going to be shown that he's mean, and he shot these people, and that's the reason those people over there are not on trial for their lives.
To refute this claim, one psychological expert took the stand in Jason's defense. In a nutshell, the doctor claimed Jason was too uneducated and socially underdeveloped to have been a leading figure in this motley crew.
He's just operating socially way down the scale. We call it not age appropriate. Be like shooting fish in a barrel.
But the judge didn't buy it.
I don't know who all were the shooters. I think there was more than one. I have seen no real remorse or emotion displayed by you. I find the evidence shows that you were aggressive in the killings, that you helped use a gun to kidnap the Lillelids in the first place.
The youngest of the 6 defendants, Jason Bryant, was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Dean Mullins and Crystal Sturgil did not testify in their own behalf, but family and friends did. Of the 6, they had the best chance of getting a lenient sentence. According to testimony, they did not ride in the van when the Lillelids were being kidnapped, but instead followed behind in Risner's car. And according to all testimony except for Bryant's, They stayed in that car while the Lillelids were being shot. Of all the defendants, Crystal Sturgil was perhaps the most pitiable. Testimony shows that her family practically pushed Crystal into the company of Natasha Cornett. 4 months before the Lillelids were killed, Crystal asked a school guidance counselor for help, saying she'd been sexually abused by her stepfather since the age of 5. That counselor notified authorities.
What did you do as a result of that allegation?
I went and spoke to the stepfather.
Where did you speak to him at?
At his home.
Same day?
The same day, yes.
When you spoke to him, what did he tell you?
He told me that he had had sex with her about 10 times.
Asking for help got Crystal away from her stepfather, but into another problem. Crystal's family refused to believe her allegations and would not let the girl live in any of their homes. But a friend had a solution.
We'll show the court, and the court has records that go through the sequence of events that led to her meeting her old friend Dean Mullins, or seeing him, and one resource, one place to stay for a while was with Natasha Cornett and Madonna, her mother. And basically she was permitted to be there for a while.
Natasha became Crystal's closest friend, including the girl in everything, even the blood rituals. That was how Crystal Sturgil came to be in the company of killers on April 6, 1997.
But for leaving that home, Your Honor, but for that allegation, I have a client that could be a freshman in college this year. And she knows she lost that. She knows the consequences of being with these folks and of joining in that great adventure of going on a road trip and getting a vehicle. And the rest was a surprise and a horror to her, just as it is to everyone else. We think the evidence supports how she came to be at at Natasha Cornett's place to stay for a while, and that the record also supports that the mitigators in this case are such that the court should consider a life sentence. And we believe that the evidence will sustain that her minor role in this terrible tragedy is such that that should also mitigate towards a life sentence. Thank you.
But in the end, Judge Beckner held Crystal responsible for her own actions, or rather, for her own inaction.
You had many chances to get away, many chances to report to authority. You left a baby for dead at the scene of this crime.
Like her co-defendants before her, Crystal Sturgil was also sentenced to life in prison without parole. If any one defendant's involvement sparks confusion, it is that of Dean Mullins. There were no stories of abuse or neglect offered on his behalf. His father painted a picture of a normal young man who was involved in school and in his church youth group. In fact, Randy Mullins testified that the boy was in church every time the doors opened.
Every Sunday, every Wednesday night, every Sunday night. Friday night youth meeting.
So that's 4 times a week?
Yes, sir.
But somewhere along the way, Dean Mullins got off track and started dating a girl he met at school. We never found out how or why Dean became involved with a young woman who embraced the opposite of everything he'd been taught to believe. But testimony by all the defendants showed Dean attended the blood rituals and did not raise protest when the Lillelids were first abducted, then killed. In fact, Jason says Dean was an active participant in the shooting.
By the time I looked over at Joe and asked him what was going on, he just turned around and started pulling the trigger.
Where'd the first shot hit?
Mr. Lillelid's right eye.
What else happened after that? How many shots did he fire?
I heard about 3 shots because I closed my eyes since that first shot hit.
Did he say anything to Mr. Mullins?
No, he slapped him on the shoulder, and Dean raised up the gun very slowly.
Did he shoot?
Yes, they both shot at the same time.
And according to Jason, after the Lillelids were killed, Dean shot him in the hand in order to convince Jason to take the blame for the murders. But Karen, Natasha, and Joe say Dean never touched a gun. Before leaving the witness stand, the boy's father made an impassioned apology to the Lillelid's family. In fact, later that family told reporters his was the only apology they believed was sincere.
To the Lillelid family, my heart bleeds for you. I'm so sorry that this happened, and if I could change it, I would. You're constantly in my prayers. I never stop thinking about you from day to day. Thank you, and may God bless you.
But a father's plea could not save a son.
You participated in the getaway and the cover-up. You were in the van for 2 days with Lillelid property, a baby seat under your feet, children's toys. And I find, therefore, that the sentences should be, in each of the 3 counts of first-degree murder, life without the possibility of parole. I further find that those sentences should be served consecutively.
When we come back, the defendants who testified tell the judge how the Lillelids were killed.
Due to intense subject matter, this program may not be suitable for young children.
The sentencing hearing lasted 4 days, and the judge's final decisions brought closure to a community that desperately needed it. However, the judge and the prosecutor in this case say we'll probably never know what really happened to the Lillelids. They believe the defendants lied on the witness stand. However, in this final segment of our special, we are going to take a look at what those defendants claim happened on April 6, 1997.
Late on a Sunday afternoon, Vidar Lillelid and his family were on their way home from a Jehovah's Witness conference in Johnson City and stopped at this rest area on Interstate 81, just north of the Baileyton exit. As fate would have it, another group of travelers stopped at the rest area at the same time. 6 teenagers that wanted to steal a van so they could travel cross-country in comfort and not crowded into a broken-down compact car. It was Natasha Cornett who first broached the subject of stealing the Lillelid's van.
And I looked over and I seen like a van and there was like nobody around it. And I asked Karen if she wanted to go steal it.
But it was Jason Bryant and Joe Risner who decided to carry out the theft. Unaware that he was a prospective victim, Vidar Lillelid tried to share his faith with a motley band of teenagers. Joe Risner feigned interest, and the group began laying their trap.
He was like, well, you know, we want to go over and sit down at the picnic table and talk about it. And I was like, yeah, okay.
They were talking, Joe and Vidar, and about God or whatever. And I was talking to Delphina and Tabitha. And Tabitha gave me and Karen a Hershey's kiss. Natasha rises up and says, I think we should leave. And that's when Joe put down the gun, the 9mm. He says, I'm sorry I have to do this to you, but he said, everyone stay calm, we're just going to take a little ride, no one will get hurt. Walk slowly to the van.
Mr. Lillelid got, he was visibly scared. The little boy he didn't even seem to know what was going on. Mrs. Lillelid was really shaken. I mean, she was tore up. She started, talking stuff. And the little girl was crying.
In the van, Vidar was ordered to start driving at gunpoint while his wife and children huddled in the back with a gun also pointed at them.
When we get in the van, Delphina said, please don't hurt us. And that's when Jason took out the 25mm, not millimeter, but caliber pistol, and pointed at Tabitha and Delphina. Delphina started singing to calm Tabitha down, and Jason told her to shut up. She had taught Tabitha about guns, and that's why she was so scared. I told her it would be okay, that nobody would hurt her. And I promised I wouldn't let anybody hurt her.
crying.
The horrifying drive didn't last long. 3 miles down the interstate, Vidar was ordered to take the Baileyton exit, then to turn onto this gravel road, Paint Hollow Road.
And Joe told everybody to get out of the van. And Karen said, just let them get their stuff and go.
Mr. Lillelid and Mrs. Lillelid and the 2 children were standing in a ditch kind of in front of the car.
He was standing beside Delphina, and he didn't have Tabitha in his arms. Tabitha was standing directly in front of him. And he had his arm around her. Tabitha was crying again. And Jason said, make her shut up. And Vidar put his hand over her mouth. Vidar took out his wallet and said, just take her money and take the van, just don't hurt us. Jason was asking Joe, what do you think we should do? Do you think we should let him go, or do you think we should kill him? And Joe said, I don't know, man, what do you think that we should do? And he said, I think we should kill him. I remember Natasha, trying to make Jason promise not to hurt the little kids. I started begging Jason not to do it. And he just wouldn't listen. And I knew somebody was going to die. So I walked over in front of the family. And I told him that I couldn't stop him from killing someone. So please don't let him hurt the kids. Will you please give me the kids so he won't hurt them? Vidar, tightens his grip on Tabitha. He has one of his hands over her mouth because she was crying really bad. And, he has an arm around Tabitha. And he tightened his grip on him, and after he said, if we let him go, they'll already be dead or something like that. Vidar said, if we die, then the kids will be hurt anyways. And I turned around. I said, please stop this. Next thing I remember, I heard Jason shooting. I remember he had the 25 the first time. And I remember he shot Vidar first.
I heard another shot, and I saw Mrs. Lillelid turn to her side, and she fell to the ground.
What did you do?
I jumped into the van, and I closed the door, and I started to cry.
I looked over at the car, and Crystal had her hands on her face, and Dean bowed down his head, and then I looked away. I remember Jason yelling, saying they're still effing alive. He grabbed the 9 out of the floor, and he ran out, and I looked back, and
What'd you see?
Tabitha.
What was she doing?
She was standing over her mother.
What'd Jason do?
I yelled no, and he went right up to her. He went right up to her and shot her. He shot them all over again. When he came back, he was laughing. He said that Delphina was laying there speaking in tongues, and Vidar was jerking really bad. He said that he had to shoot them all over again.
I sat there for a minute, and I tried to kind of get a grip. And I pulled the van forward, and I pulled the van forward until I saw this house up there. And I think I said, O-S-H. There's a effing house up there or something. And I started to turn the van around like really quickly. I mean, I was like ramming the sides of the ditch and stuff.
I was staring at the steering wheel, and I seen it jerk I seen Joe jerk it to the right, and we ran over something. And I turned around, and I looked in the back window, and we had ran over them. And Jason said, that little girl looks like she just got effed. She's all sprawled out. And he was laughing about it.
And that is the closest account we have of what happened to Vidar, Delphina, Tabitha, and Peter Lillelid on that terrible day. The people who lived in the house up the road called 911 when they heard shooting, and deputies found the Lillelids minutes later. The children were still alive and were rushed to the UT Medical Center in Knoxville, but Tabitha died from a gunshot wound to the head the next day. Peter would be the only survivor. 2 gunshot wounds, one to the chest and another to the eye, will leave him disabled for the rest of his life. But the fact that he has a life to live is miraculous. Vidar's sister from Sweden and Delphina's sister from Florida each fought for custody of Peter, and even before his family's killers were sentenced to spend the rest of their lives behind bars, 3-year-old Peter was beginning a new life in Sweden with his new family. As for those killers, the judge stated in open court he did not believe Jason Bryant was the only shooter. The Greene County District Attorney who handled this case, Barclay Bell, told us he doesn't believe the stories told by Natasha Cornett, Karen Howell, or Joe Risner, or even Bryant's standalone account of what happened. He believes the Kentucky Six set out to kill as part of a ritual, and all of them had a hand in the murders. Prosecutors outlined several more occult findings we didn't touch on in our story, such as the fact that both Vidar and Peter were shot in the right eye, and that the right eye has some sort of significance in the occult. Or the fact that a group of 6 committed murder on April 6th and marked 2 of their victims with 3-pointed triangles equaling 6. Or that 5 of the 6 defendants each had something that belonged to the Lillelids in their possession when they were caught in Arizona. Tabitha's Hello Kitty locket, a picture of Tabitha, Peter and Delphina's Social Security cards. Barclay Bell would allege that in their dark world, carrying something that belonged to the dead gave special powers, and that somehow killing children would earn some sort of bizarre extra credit. However, both Natasha and Karen denied those allegations. Several contradictions in testimony also contributed to a lack of belief. There are discrepancies about which gun Jason used first, the 9mm or the .25 caliber handgun. And there is a discrepancy about who was shot first. Karen and Joe say it was Vidar. Natasha says it was Delphina, even though all claim that they saw it happen. Joe Risner says Natasha was the one who told him to take the van and told him to use the gun, and then directed Vidar about where to go. Joe says he tried to get Natasha to stop, but Natasha told the judge she was the one who tried repeatedly to stop that chain of events. And the chain does continue to destroy lives today. On April 29th, Jason Bryant's father, Arlen Bryant, was found hanging from a tree. He had apparently committed suicide. Family members told investigators in Pike County, Kentucky, that Bryant had been, quote, despondent after his son pleaded guilty to the Lillelid murders. All 6 defendants have filed for post-conviction relief. That means they're going to ask the Knoxville Criminal Court of Appeals to reduce their sentences. As of this date, that court has not scheduled a hearing in the cases.
The occult elements threaded through the Lillelid murders unfold like a ritual pulled from the shadows of a malformed belief system, then imposed with brutal precision on the waking world. Payne Hollow Lane, a gravel arm of Van Hill Road, became not merely a crime scene but a charged and haunted theatre. The teenagers who arrived there brought more than weapons. They carried sigils scrawled in blood, invoked spirits by name, and rehearsed chaos dressed in the language of ritual. This was not randomness. When the bodies of Vidar and Delphina Lillelid were found, they bore wounds not just in the flesh, but marked in deliberate shape. equilateral triangles of gunshots, 3 in the father's chest, 3 in the mother's abdomen, symbols already conjured the night before in a Kentucky motel ritual seeking satanic protection. It was as if the abstract geometry of their private rites had demanded sacrifice and had now claimed it etched in blood onto unwilling human altars. That triangle, the ancient symbol of manifestation, of invocation of power divided threefold, was not incidental. It had meaning to them, just as the arrangement of the family's bodies was interpreted with eerie symbolism. 2 adults in a ditch, their children lain across them, evoking a grotesque parody of the cross, the very emblem of the Jehovah's Witness faith the Lillelids had followed and had just returned from professing. In some occult philosophies, the right eye is associated with solar force, with authority, with divine or magical sight, and it was the right eye that was destroyed in both adults and in the surviving Peter. That consistency across victims, right side injuries, geometric shot patterns, whispered of something more orchestrated than panic. It suggested ritual, even if subconscious or misinterpreted, written in the silent grammar of sacrificial magic. The acts were prefigured in the hotel room, where triangles were carved into flesh as the group drank each other's blood and murmured for protection, possibly invoking demons or at least believing they did. These were teenagers unmoored from any orthodox spirituality, but saturated in occult imagery, playing at power with razors, chants, and role-playing rulebooks until play and belief blurred. Natasha Cornett, who emerged as a central figure, saw herself as the daughter of Satan. Jonathan Alexander Dmitri guided her through automatic writing, through visions of red-filtered light and shadow figures haunting her periphery. Her descent drew exorcists to her home and pulled her closer to Cornett, as if their shared wounds formed a ritual circle no outsider could break. Their communion was not with gods or angels, but with absence itself, a desperate plea for meaning that came back as whispers in the dark. Even after the crime, the ritual did not end. When the 6 were caught at the Mexican border, they were carrying the Lillelids' belongings, photographs, identification cards, jewelry, as if these were talismans imbued with the essence of the slain, claimed in conquest or absorbed as power. In the language of the old grimoires, such objects would be used in sympathetic magic, binding the dead to the will of the sorcerer. Prosecutors, while cautious not to let the case slip fully into occult theatre, could not ignore the numerology. 6 murderers on the 6th of April, with wounds in triangle shapes creating 6 points per body. The survival of young Peter, blind in one right eye, only deepened the pattern, leaving a living mark, a child half-sacrificed, as if some ritual had been left incomplete or satisfied in part. Though courts later dismissed formal accusations of organised Satanism, the signs refused to vanish. Natasha's mother, once permissive, turned terrified. She destroyed the remnants of her daughter's dark altar, burned the Ouija board, dismantled the room, and spoke of possession, of something unleashed and untamed. A black dog named Evil stood watch as the flames consumed the board. An image as old as folklore itself, the witch's familiar, the guardian of gates, the hound of hell. The land, too, seemed drawn into the ritual. Payne Hollow Lane sits at the edge of Greene County, bordered by ridges and silence, a place already regarded by locals as remote, haunted, set apart. The story shaped the geography. Van Hill became a name spoken with unease, a corridor now associated with darkness and death. With the murders happening on a dirt road off of Van Hill Road, the road itself runs through a sparsely populated corridor with old homesteads, abandoned buildings and very limited infrastructure. The end of Payne Hollow Lane, where the Lillelid family was found, exists at the fringe of both Greene County's road system and, arguably, its law enforcement reach. Local folklore and regional oral history suggest the land has long been considered off, with some attributing this to energetic anomalies that align with known ley line maps. While ley lines are not officially recognized in geological science, practitioners of geomancy and esoteric disciplines have mapped a web of supposed energy alignments across North America, and several intersect near Greenville, Tennessee. These theoretical crossings are thought by believers to intensify spiritual or paranormal activity. Greene County itself has a documented history of unsolved or suspicious deaths. a 1986 case involving a woman found stabbed in a church parking lot remains open. In the 1990s, 2 different teens disappeared within 5 miles of Van Hill and were later found dead under unclear circumstances, one in a creek bed with signs of blunt force trauma, and one in an abandoned trailer burned beyond recognition. Neither case resulted in convictions. Multiple fires, including the destruction of rural churches and isolated homes, have occurred under unexplained circumstances. While no centralized law enforcement source has linked these events to occult practice, certain commonalities, use of fire, symbolic object placement, and patterns of injury have led to speculation among investigators and journalists. Paranormal investigators active in East Tennessee since the early 2000s have identified this part of Greene County as a zone of elevated anomalous reports. These include orbs and light phenomena in wooded areas, auditory hallucinations reported during EVP, electronic voice phenomenon sessions, and unusually high electromagnetic field readings at abandoned sites within 5 miles of Van Hill. One group documented what they described as geometric burn marks in a clearing just off the ridge in 2011, arranged in triangular patterns similar to those discussed during the Lillelid murder investigation. There is also a local pattern of informal spiritual and occult practice. Appalachian folk magic, or granny witchcraft, has been practiced in the region since early European settlement. Blending Christian prayer with herbalism, astrology, and ritual magic, this tradition has been passed down orally and remains present in pockets of Greene County. More recently, in the 1990s and 2000s, law enforcement reports occasionally referenced occult paraphernalia found in wooded campsites, candles, chalk markings, and remnants of animal sacrifice, though these were often dismissed as teenage experimentation or role-playing activity.
They're going to be sorry they were ever born. All of them.
Try to kill me, but I never die. I'm aiming cannons that they don't till I'm in the sky. And I ain't stopping on the mission till it's realized. And rappers claiming that they real, spitting real lies. And now I'm back up in the premises. Top of mountains, I ain't sending prayers to my nemesis. Start the game blowing, we gon' call that Sega Genesis. They kamikaze to them demons if they walk the premises. Now I'm back in my bag, reminiscing I was wishing I was back in the bag. Or be packing the Mac in the back of the Acura bag. Now I'm stacking them, dragging them to my immaculate dad. Whoa! The spirit got me going Hercules. Head locking on the game till it hurt to breathe. I rock nations for the rock with an urgency. I ain't the next Jay-Z, I'm the first to me. And Soul District be the dynasty. So tell the major labels I don't got no time for these lies that they sell. It's all the rodeo. They offer me that molio for stealing my portfolio. On every song in my catalog, building generation wealth till I'm in the morgue.